Okay, screen share ହେଇଛି?
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍ ସେୟାର ହେଇଛି।
Okay, ठीक है. So today's we have two topics to cover today. Small topics: questionnaire and interview or interview schedule. Okay. So let's discuss about questionnaire and interview schedule. By the way, just to remind you, we are continuing with techniques of data collection and analysis. So chapter 2 रे आमे research in general social research ऊपर details से पढ़ी थिलु, phases of research, types of research, blah blah. Research रो गोटे specific part हला tools of data collection. कहा थ्रू रे आमे data collect करिवो and analysis करिवो तार. तो यार बहुत सारा tools अछि and continuing from previous topics जेंते आमे case study पढ़ी थिलु. Semedia questionnaire and interview schedule are there. Okay. Now these are for you to study on your own. After this running note, you can study on your own. Questionnaire and interview schedule with a difference with the. So you go through it, but for the time being, we'll begin with what is interview and what is questionnaire, and rest whatever infographics are given, that is for you to study on your own. Now try to understand in short questionnaire ro mane kon. First la questionnaire. देखो आगुरी जमी आम फिल्ड वर्क विषय टी पढ़िलु, केस स्टडी विषय पढ़िलु, है ना, सर्वे विषय पढ़िलु, तो सेगुड़ा टी रिलेटिवली टेक्निकल थिला. कंपैरेटिवली क्वेश्चनर और इंटरव्यू दुईटा को इट इज मोर और लेस आई मीन इट इज लेस टेक्निकल. सो समस्त ऑलमोस्ट जानते कि क्वेश्चनर एंड इंटरव्यू शेड्यूल कौन, इंटरव्यू कौन, बट स्टिल एग्जाम रे तो लिखिया को हबो, यू विल फेस द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ कंटेंट. ये एक्चुअली लिखियार कौन अछि जानि छ हम सब जिंस कौन, बट actually sociological answer ta likhya kemti achi. ठीक है. So for that reason we are studying this in detail. Okay. So questionnaire basically, just to give you very briefly, very crudely an idea, questionnaire रो गोटे बहुत बढ़िया एग्जांपल हला. हमें जो बहुत बेसिकली गूगल फॉर्म्स भरुछु. ओके, कैन वी कॉल दिस अ क्वेश्चननायर और नॉट? एबे तुम फिल अप करथिबो श्रेयांश साइकोलॉजी जॉइन करियो. ओके, यू मस्ट हैव फिल्ड कि व्हाट इज योर नेम, what is your maybe age or address, then what is your optional. So optional to psychology samastana same much. Then what, how many attempts you have given, any other coaching institute you have joined. So these are what this is, these sort of Google forms. This is just an example of a questionnaire. So from this, can you tell me questionnaire, what is questionnaire? Crude understanding. कौन लाउची तुमको? Yes, anyone? No, अरे try करो. Very simple, no? A list of questions. A list of questions given to a person to answer. Very simply, list of questions. The list of questions through कौन तारो response जहाँ मिलियो, that becomes the primary data for the researcher. So Bogardas, you must have heard about this person, sociological researcher. He said that questionnaire, it हमें in short हमें इम्तिया symbol टा इटी use करेंगे Q. Questionnaires secure standardized answers, that can be tabulated and tested statistically. या माने कौन हमें पर डिस्कस करें. Standardized answers that can be tabulated and tested statistically. So basically, it is a list of questions for the people or subjects to answer, through which the researcher gets primary data. So similarly, if you want to write other definitions, good and hat. You remember in previous classes we had discussed about these two sociologists, good and hat. So out of them, good has given this definition that questionnaire is a device that secures answers to questions using a form which the respondent fills in himself or herself. Okay. So this is good highlighted this part key the respondent fills in the questionnaire himself or herself. That means in most of the other research methods you must have seen कि जहाँ भी data collect होची finally record किए करूची record करूची जो लोकड़ा researcher, right? But this is one of the few research tools which is being recorded by the person himself or herself. Right? So this is the main difference. Okay. Now, one of the other characteristics of research, I mean, this questionnaire method is mode of administration. So mode of administration means how is it given to the people. So usually it is either mailed, that is postal through a mail kar diya jai paribo, or it is emailed. Okay. Electronically it can be sent. अब SMS through the list of question पठाटा difficult. So these are the main two methods. Okay. Postal through पठे or electronically it can be sent. बुझी होची अपन तो जहाँ कहूँ बहुत इजी राइट I know that this class is going to be the easiest class. Okay. बेसिक किसी बुझियार किसी नहीं पिलाने बुझी होची कि नहीं please give me some response otherwise I don't know if I'm going बुझी होची okay am I going too fast or too slow no ठीक है
नहीं सर ठीक है
ठीक है okay very good. So next is we are going to understand what are the types of questionnaires. देखो chapter 2 रे कौन है कि chapter 2 रे जितनी questions आस्तेला माने probably no they are usually given in terms of short notes. समान को किताब रे question पचरा भी write short notes on this content analysis write a short note. Chapter 3 रे टिके in depth रे पचरी पारंती. For example, they will not simply ask you just write short note on questionnaire. They may also ask you what are the different types of questionnaires. How can you build a questionnaire? Okay. What is the difference between questionnaire and interview schedule? So it is easy and therefore they will not ask you direct questions. Slightly indirect questions will be asked, but in any case, in this note, through this class, we'll be able to write answer every question. Okay. So types of questionnaire, कितने type of questionnaire अच्छी? First is structured questionnaire. Structured questionnaire माने कौन? Basically, entire questionnaire is pre-planned and fixed. Okay. Pre-planned and fixed. So all the questions देखो क्वेश्चनर रो जो क्वेश्चन गुडा को हम बेले क्वेश्चन को बेले बेले ताको आइटम्स भी को ओके आइटम्स मीन सेम क्वेश्चंस ऑल क्वेश्चंस और आइटम्स आर फ्रेम्ड before starting the research. So and these items are well organized to elicit responses that covers the topic of the research. माने very simply structured. What is structured माने it is well organized. For example, if you are trying to, let's give an example. Suppose you are trying to understand the marital relationship, okay, within a community. So you are a structured questionnaire कौन हो? You will ask first of all, what is the marital status? ये बड़ा सा frame हो. What is your marital status? Okay, you can give some options. Then it will be asked ki from when did you marry? If you have married, okay. Who did you marry or from which place did you marry? Kete years halani? How many children have you? How many children do you have? Okay. Children kete achandi. Then what is your relationship, status of relationship with your spouse? And now in this you can go into detail. You can ask a lot of questions. So this is an example of structured questionnaire. Everything is pre-planned, and the main point is that when the form is generating the data, you see it is structured or organized in a sensible manner. Organized in a sensible manner means haphazardly କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ନାହିଁ। ଏବେ ଭାବ ଗୋଟେ questionnaire start ହବ ଏଠି ଏଠିରୁ What is your status of relationship with your spouse? Next question would be, what is your marital status? First you ask the person what is the marital status, whether the person is married, unmarried, divorcee, or widowed. Then you ask what is the relationship. So if you have these kind of jumbled kind of questionnaire, that means it is not a well organized questionnaire. So this is the meaning of structured questionnaire, that questions are framed before the research in detail, and it is also organized with based on some kind of logic. It should be organized. It should not be haphazard. Then there is second type of questionnaire, that is non-structured structured questionnaire. So from this you can understand कि non-structured questionnaire कौन होगा, कि जहाँ क्वेश्चन किसी सेमिति फ्रेम ही नथिबो डेफिनेट सब्जेक्ट मैटर ऊपर. तो तुम मैंने भाबियो कि अच्छा जदि क्वेश्चन ही फ्रेम, यार माने कि क्वेश्चन किसी फ्रेम ही नहीं, यार माने होची कि स्ट्रक्चर्ड वे रे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम ही नाही. स्ट्रक्चर्ड वे रे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम ही नाही जदि ताहले कोन हो, ताहले लोक कोन किछि भी गोटा ब्लैंक शीट थोड़ी ना लोक दिया. So there will be some definite subject matter, but it will be more open ended. यार माने कौन, for example in the same case they will simply give you a broad guideline. गोटे गाइडलाइन दिया हो क्वेश्चनर रे, हेतरे तुमको कहबो कि राइट व्हाट यू वांट टू से. फॉर एग्जांपल द क्वेश्चन इन द सेम काइंड ऑफ एग्जांपल जदि नॉन स्ट्रक्चर्ड क्वेश्चनर या ऊपर हो, then broadly it will be written on the questionnaire कि subject matter is this marital relationship. Then you will be asked to provide, you describe your relationship. So there might be, you might be given some space where you can describe. Okay. So similarly, 2-3 such overall or broad pointers will be given based on which you are supposed to give your answer. So this is an example of non-structured questionnaire. So from this you can see what is the difference. In structured it is very well organized. In non-structured it is not that well organized. Okay. So non-structured विषय रे हम कौन कहि परिया ना, questions or items on a definite subject matter are given without being too narrow. So this type of questionnaire is used more like a guide. In fact, when non-structured questionnaires are used in interviews, it's called as interview schedule. Interview schedule विषय पे हमें interview part रे second chapter या next topic है. Okay. Now can you tell me, have you ever faced these kind of non-structured or structured questionnaires? Life रे कभी face करते? No. In general किसी questionnaire fill up कर सकते? Anyone?
आगे सर गूगल फॉर्म.
Google form छोड़ा, उस form fill up कर. UPSC form that can also work as a questionnaire. UPSC form जहाँ fill up करते हो, और कोई भी exam form fill up करते हो, OPSC, UPSC, whatever it is, they are also eliciting some form of data from you or not. कि सब आधार कार्ड डिटेल टू आरंभ करी तुम एड्रेस केते अटेम्प्ट देइछो, कोन करछो, सब किछ, कास्ट स्टेटस, क्लास स्टेटस, इकोनॉमिक तो बापा मांकर केते इनकम, सब किछ अछि. But माने difference is that is not a social research. Okay. It is used within an organization for employment and other things. Okay. But these are also similar things are also used in social research. Now closed questionnaire. Now closed questionnaire crudely to understand this is to think of MCQ types questions. MCQ types माने कौन? Alternatives given to each question, each item or question. Alternative माने कौन? For example, question would be ki, how satisfied are you with the government? Okay. So your options are very satisfied. Second is, okay, moderately satisfied or somewhat satisfied. Third is dissatisfied. Fourth is very dissatisfied. Okay. In fact, from this there is a link with closed questionnaire to scales. There is a link. Scale basically एठी मु टिके डिस्कस करूची सैम्पलिंग एंड स्केलिंग रे भी हमें जिंस पढी देखो ए सेम जिंस को एबे हमें देखो ए गुडा होची सब क्वालिटेटिव आंसर दिस इज देयरफॉर ए मोस्टली क्वालिटेटिव टूल है ना क्वालिटेटिव टूल इंटरव्यू इट इज अ क्वालिटेटिव टूल केस स्टडी क्वालिटेटिव टूल बट बहुत सारा क्वालिटेटिव टूल को भी वी कैन कन्वर्ट इट इनटू क्वांटिटेटिव टूल्स एबे देखो क्वांटिटेटिव टूल को हमें केमतिया कन्वर्ट करी स्केलिंग रे इटा हमें वेरी सैटिस्फाइड को गोटे आर्बिट्रेरीली गोटे नंबर असाइन करियो +3 moderately satisfied को हमें assign करियो +1 dissatisfied को करियो -1 very dissatisfied करियो -3 and from this we will check out the score of each and every response एबे किछि लोक जहा जहा से एंटायर क्वेश्चनर रे जहा जहा रेस्पोंड करिवे तार सब स्कोर्स आसियो क्वेश्चन 1 रे गोटे स्कोर आसियो लेट्स से +3 क्वेश्चन 2 रे आसला -1 क्वेश्चन 3 रे आसला +1 क्वेश्चन 4 रे आसला सेमितिया +5 इटा जेमति हमें +3 टू -3 रेंज रे नीचु सेमितिया +5 रु -5 हेई पारे किछि भी हेई पारे हला 10 टू -10 हेई पारे तो एई बळया सब बहुत सारा क्वेश्चन आसिला तार हमें फाइनल स्कोर गोटे टोटल स्कोर कैलकुलेट करू टोटल स्कोर जहा कैलकुलेट कलु ता बेसिस रे हमें क्लासिफाई करि परिउ कि ओके दिस पर्सन इज प्रो गवर्नमेंट और एंटी गवर्नमेंट और व्हाट दिस पर्सन इज देयर फीलिंग और एटीट्यूड कोन अछि गवर्नमेंट रे बे बुझी होछि केमिति हमें क्वालिटेटिव डेटा को क्वांटिटेटिव डेटा रे कन्वर्ट करछि बुझी होछि पिला माने इट्स अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट कांसेप्ट आर यू एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस किछ डाउट हले पचारा आई एक्सप्लेन अगेन मु गोटे प्रीवियस क्लास रे चैप्टर 2 रे गोटे एग्जांपल भी कहथि गोटे स्माइली स्केल थाए हॉस्पिटल रे तुम माने बेले बेले देखि दियो और विभिन्न फीडबैक देबी गोटे रेस्टोरेंट गलो ट्रेन ने गलो से तुम फीडबैक दिया हो पता से गोटे पिक्टोरियल फीडबैक थाए ओके पिक्टोरियल फीडबैक गुडा एमितिया थाए ओके now they are converting the same thing into scale they will ask you how satisfied are you with your service how satisfied are you with our service so you have to check one of this means this is moderately satisfied this is more satisfied highly satisfied this is less satisfied so highly dissatisfied now ebe तुम जहां भी चूज करियो लेट्स से एठी तुम टिक मारलो now semane tankaro ए रिपोर्ट टा को नै कि they will calculate they have their own calculation let's say this is 1 this is +3 or this is 0 this is +1 this is +3 this is -1 this is -3 okay from that they will calculate the total score of that service and accordingly they will know कि okay service हमरो ठीक थला कि खराब थला so it is not we are not now studying about questionnaire or interview we are studying about scaling how we can convert qualitative data into quantitative data okay? scaling rate हमें डिटेल में देखिए so let's continue with our this part closed questionnaire okay? so closed questionnaire रो यार गोटे एग्जांपल देलो आ गोटे एग्जांपल क्लोज क्वेश्चनर कोन इंडिया ऑप्शंस माने तुमको सब थरे ऑप्शंस दिया ओके यू डोंट हैव स्कोप टू एलाबोरेट और डिस्क्राइब so for example your background गोटे क्वेश्चन आइटम थी your background is what so your option is 1 is rural 2 is urban 3 is semi rural or semi urban okay 4 is metropolitan right so these are examples of closed questionnaire now the second type of questionnaire is known as open questionnaire now who can guess eta kon hitio open questionnaire guess karo fill in the blanks type okay instead of giving you options you will be like this you will be given some space in which you can write your answer that is the open questionnaire Now you are only being asked a question and you have the freedom to answer the way you like. Okay. So respondent is given freedom to express himself or herself. So this is usually employed when new information is to be discovered. ଏଥିରେ କ'ଣ suppose interviewer को भी जଣା नहीं କିଛି information, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ open questionnaire ଦଉ. In the, for example, in the same case, you will be given a question or an item that describe how you feel about the government, about the new government, and you would be given this kind of space. Here you have to write, so space to write your comments. So from that they would analysis, ସେମାନେ ତାପରେ ତାର analysis କରିକି ତାପରେ ତମକୁ classify କରାଯିବ whether you are pro government or anti government or neutral. And just an example, if this is the objective of your survey, otherwise if the objective of your survey is to find out the lacuna of the government or to find out the strength of the government, so you can accordingly you can find out the outcomes also. ସେଇ ବେସିସ୍ ରେ ବି ତମେ ବାହାର କରିପାରିବ ଓକେ ଏ ଲୋକ ସପୋଜ ଏ ଲୋକ ଲେଖିଛି କି ଆଜ୍ଞା ମୁଁ ତ ବହୁତ ଡିସାଟିସ୍ଫାଏଡ୍, ମତେ ଘର ମିଳୁନି, ପକ୍କା ଘର ମିଳୁନି, ରାସ୍ତା କାମ ହଉନାହିଁ, ତାହେଲେ ଲାକୁନାରେ ସେଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ମେନସନ୍ ହବ. ଷ୍ଟ୍ରେନ୍ଥ ରେ ସପୋଜ ପଚାରିଛି ହଁ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଇଜ ଲିସନିଂ ଟୁ ଆୱାର ଗ୍ରିଭାନ୍ସେସ୍, so that is the strength. Building infrastructure, that is the strength. So whatever is the purpose of your research, accordingly we'll analyze it and the researcher will write the report. But the format is in this way, fill in the blanks. Okay. So this is an example of open questionnaire. बुझी होची जहाँ को आवश्यक है, बहुत इजी अच्छी राइट, इस तो डिफिकल्ट नहीं. गिव मी सम फीडबैक.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍ ବୁଝୁଛି.
वेरी. So both open and closed questions ଯେତେବେଳେ यूज हुए ତାକୁ ଆମେ mixed questionnaire. For example, यार कौन example हो? Let's say you are trying to find out the marital relationship within a community or within a family. So you'll give what first question would be your marital status. Okay. So here you have given some options: married, single, separated, widowed, whatever. Okay. But question 2 is how would you describe your relationship with your spouse? And then you are given some blank spaces to write the answer. So this is an open kind of question and this is a closed question. So the when you use the mix of this, it is known as a mixed question. Okay. Very simple. Then there are some pictorial questionnaires. Pictorial questionnaires when questions are or questions or items are explained or aided through illustrations. Okay. So एमितिया ହେଇଥିବ ଏଠି ଗୋଟେ question ଥିବ, for example here there would be one question, here there would be a box and ଏଥିରେ କିଛି photo ଗୋଟେ ଥିବ, picture ଗୋଟେ ଥିବ ଯାହା through ଏଟା screen पर ଆଇଥିବ. So ଏଟା basically used for children or illiterate or semi-literate people or people with low IQ, है ना, ଏମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ यूज କରାଯାଏ. ଯୋଉଥିରେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ବହୁତ difficult complex question को answer କରିପାରିବେ ନାହିଁ, ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ question ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଗୋଟେ accompany କରାଯାଇଥାଏ ଗୋଟେ illustration through which they can understand. These are the major types. Now we are moving on to the advantages and disadvantages. Advantages of questionnaires. What are the advantages? See, in case of both questionnaire and interview, the first advantage is that it generates valuable primary data. What is primary data? Can anyone tell me? Yes, anyone? Primary data, secondary data difference कौन?
सर जो डाटा में डायरेक्ट फील्ड को जाइना कलेक्ट करता से डाटा में
Very good,
प्राइमरी डाटा को
very good, excellent. Who is this?
सोनालिका विश्वास सर
Okay, very good, Sonali. So first advantage is देखो social research रे जेतले भी advantage को भी tool लो लिखियो सेतले first you should try to recall whether it is primary data or secondary data. If it is generating primary data, it is much better because primary data is always valuable. However, ଯେତେବେଳେ ମନେ ରଖିବ primary data generate ହେଉଛି somehow it will always be time, cost and labor intensive. Means ସେଥିରେ ବହୁତ effort ଆମର ଯିବ. On the other hand, ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ research secondary data generate କରୁଛି or secondary data କୁ use କରିକି ଆମେ research କରୁଛୁ, ତାହେଲେ ସେଟା ବହୁତ cost effective ହେଇଯିବ, time, cost and labor effective ହେଇଯିବ. But ତା ମାନେ ସେ fresh data use କରୁନାହିଁ, it is generate କରୁନାହିଁ, it is using already existing data. So second advantage कौन? The close-ended questionnaires generate data which can be easily tabulated and analyzed. Statistical analysis करियो. Specifically closed-ended questionnaire. ଏବେ ଦେଖ open-ended questionnaire रे big କରି हबो, but open-ended questionnaire को कौन हम पुनी convert କରିବାକୁ पड़ियो into some objective data. Then with that data you can build this thing. But close-ended questionnaire is much easier to further use in tabulation and analysis because हमको सब ये भला objective format रे हमको data टा मिली है rural, urban, semi-urban, metropolitan like this, okay? And you can also give scores like this and you can build a scale also. Okay? So therefore it is easier to tabulate and analysis, do analysis. It is also remember most efficient research tool माने tool of data collection and analysis, TODCA or TODC. When the respondents are large in number and or spread across a large area. एबे भाबो आमे गोटे रिसर्च करिया चाहूछु कि इंडिया रो आमे रिसर्च करिया चाहूछु कि यूथ माने कोन प्रॉब्लम फेस करछन. Let's say some kind of social pressure they are facing, we want to conduct a research on it. Now can we go to every household and ask them? We cannot ask them. It is much better to send questionnaire to a large sample of people. Let's say आमे कोन करिवु सबु गोटे ग्रुप को टारगेट करिकि कॉलेज गोइंग स्टूडेंट्स major colleges of India across different states, we will just send them questionnaires, okay? Or we will send questionnaire to the head of the that college and we will ask them ki please circulate this and give us the responses. semane jo data return karibe, now it is much better to use. It is much more difficult to go home to home and collect the data. So when the respondents are large in number or spread across a large area, at that time you there is the only, this is one of the only methods that you can use, okay? अन्य method of use है ही पारिबो नहीं because that will be very time cost and labor intensive. चलो ये पॉइंट भी लिखी दवा, time cost and labor effective. टकले, we have discussed this, right? टकले टकली, टकले means what? Means जोटा easily ही जो, टकली means time cost and labor जोटा extra खर्चा हो. So this is टकले compared to other TODCs. Other tools like, which are the other tools? Like interview, case study, है ना, ସେଥିରେ ଆମର ବହୁତ effort ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ ହେଉଛି. So ଏଟା କାହିଁକି ହେଉଛି? Because the researcher need not go to the field or even send recruiters or even send field workers, है ना, हमें directly लोगों को generate करती data. Now can we say कि it is also generates objective data or accuracy as the responses are filled by the people themselves? Respondents ସେମାନେ ନିଜେ ହିଁ ସେ data ଟାକୁ fill up କରୁଛନ୍ତି, right? ସେଥିପାଇଁ objective हो और accurate हो, right? ଆଉ କଣ ହେଇପାରିବ? आ कोन भाबो आ कोन बेनिफिट करियो respondents fill the questionnaire at their own convenience jete time darkar आराम से टाइम नहीं कर परिवे okay that is also an advantage questionnaires are familiar to most people so semane intimidate heବେ ନାହିଁ okay most people माने unlike for example unlike interviews which make people apprehensive ता माने कोन देखो इंटरव्यू तुम यदि को लोक को जाई कहयो कि आगे हम सोशल रिसर्च करूछु आपनकर गोटे इंटरव्यू न तो से लोक को संगे संगे से सेल्फ कॉन्शियस हे जिवो कि लोक स्ट्रेट तुमको रिफ्यूज कर देबे कि काहे कि इंटरव्यू नबो हमको इंटरव्यू दवा को इच्छा नहीं बट इफ यू सेंड क्वेश्चनर देखो नॉन रेस्पॉन्स भी तो हाई हबो बहुत लोक सेतरे भी रेस्पॉन्स देबे बट जो लोक रेस्पॉन्स देबे दे विल नॉट बी सेल्फ कॉन्शियस दे विल नॉट बी एप्रीहेंसिव तो तुमर इच्छा अछि यदि क्वेश्चन फिल अप करी सेंड करियो इच्छा नाही यदि करियो बट जो लोक इच्छा जार इच्छा अछि से लोक ठीक आंसर देबे दे विल नॉट बी स्केयर्ड ऑफ एनीथिंग so that is also a good thing next is uniformity and structured questions it is good that organized data collect करियो get organized data then one major advantage is that researchers own biases or values don't affect the respondent because the researcher is not present there as he is not physically present से जगह रे नाही यदि जणे तो तांकर बायस affect करिवो नाही so the person who is replying the same person can reply whatever he or she thinks is correct आउ किछ अछि एडवांटेज आ कोन भाबुछ okay next let's move on to the disadvantages or limitations of questionnaires कौन limitation ही पारे major limitation कौन को anyone first is low response rate okay. most people will not even respond to the your questionnaire right what else there is no scope of the researcher to either clarify the question suppose किछि question किछि respondent को बुझा पड़ला तो से तो रिटर्न गोटे मेल ले आछि से क्वेश्चन फर्दर क्वेश्चन पचारि परिबेनी secondly so जो क्वेश्चन ता से बुझी परिबेनी they will skip it okay or they will not even entirely reply to the questionnaire second hala researcher can also not ask probing question further or probing questions means गोटे क्वेश्चन यदि satisfactory answer न मिलिला ताले कोन फेस टू फेस माने एंती इंटरव्यू टाइप ऑफ रिसर्च मेथड रे कोन हो हमें फेस टू फेस फर्दर पचारि करी कि व्हाट डिड यू आंसर और व्हाई डिड यू आंसर लाइक दिस कैन यू फर्दर एलाबोरेट और यार माने कोन बट क्वेश्चन आरे से ऑप्शन ता नहीं हम पत्रे सो दैट मींस कि इनएक्यूरेट डेटा और इनकम्प्लीट डेटा आसे तो या माने हो कि इनकम्प्लीट और inadequate responses are generated that is the meaning so what else it is sorry time constant never effective এটা ভালো কথা disadvantage no what else is there it questionnaire can you say that questionnaire is a rigid tool flexibility nahi है ना especially close ended question रे flexibility नଥାଏ second we can say that it lacks personal connection with the researcher so personal connection with the researcher जेतले हबो सेतले कोन हबो the many times what will happen is that the interviewer इंटरव्यू फॉर एग्जांपल जता हम करूछु सतबेले गोटे फेस टू फेस हेले गोटे रैपो बिल्डिंग भी हिता यदि गोटे भलो रैपो बिल्डिंग हबो देन the researcher can actually get a lot of more information from the respondent than actually designed in the research. So actually भी जते हमें एक्सपेक्ट करनो थु ताठरो अधिका भी आसी पारे डेटा बट एथिरे कोन जति कि हम क्वेश्चन पचारी बस सेति कि हमको डेटा मिले राइट. Similarly questionnaires cannot or should not ask too personal or sensitive questions because ask कले कोन हो देखो लिखित भाव में तुमको जने यदि पचारियो कि से क्वेश्चन टाको तो तुम केबे भी आंसर करबन okay no response सबले आसो for example if you are talking about family norms let's say for example so there are some cultural background to it also किछि किछि सोसाइटी रे एटा टैबू टाइप रो कंसीडर करा जाय so if you are asking people ki have you done family planning and face to face interview हेले कोन you can first build the rapport धीरे धीरे तांको माने कंफर्टेबल बनै परियो एंड तापरे क्वेश्चन पचारि परियो बट यदि क्वेश्चनर गोटे रिटन डाउन थी कि have you done family planning or not which method did you use for family planning then people will not answer दुकान कहे काई यार मु एते मोर पर्सनल डिटेल मन को देबी तो सुन देबे ही नहीं so that is also one of the disadvantage or limitations of questionnaires. Okay. Now can you tell me ki how can this thing be removed or addressed in other tools other tool ले केमिति एटा को एड्रेस करा जी पाइयो ए प्रॉब्लम जोथरे ठीक आंसर मिलु नाही और जोथरे लोक माने हेजिटेट करू एनी आइडिया one is rapport building any other idea can you think of how kon kari hobo can we ask them indirectly some question जहार आंसर थ्रू रे हमें इन्फर करि परिबी कि समान कर एक्चुअली समान कोन क्वेश्चन फॉर एग्जांपल लेट्स से कि you want to know some person's attitude towards some other country so let's say if you immediately ask someone जदि क्वेश्चनर रे डायरेक्टली तुम पचार दबो कि आज्ञा आपनकर पाकिस्तान को नै कि कोन व्यू अछि तो मे बी समवन विल गेट सेल्फ कॉन्शियस कि मु किछ खराब न लिखे but indirectly if you ask the question ki questionnaire re bhi there is a question ki would you like to visit Pakistan the person says no I will not like to visit from this we can infer that probably the person does not have a positive attitude towards Pakistan probably because there could be some other reason also but through these kind of indirect question also we can understand but again there would be issue of subjectivity in this also interpretation mein sabla subjectivity asyo right what else someone other than the intended recipient can reply or respond to the questionnaire तुम्हें जणो पठेइथिलो सपोज तुम्हें श्रेयांक सर को पठेइथिलो तांको एड्रेस रे बट फाइनली हु आंसर्ड दिस श्रेयांक सर वाज वेरी बिजी श्रेयांक सर सेड की टू हिज सन ही सेड की बाबू तुम्हें एटा भरि दियो मोर बहुत काम अछि तो श्रेयांक सर को पुओ तार मन इच्छा जहा से ना भर्ती कर दला then he sent it back so we think that Shreyank sir has responded but who has actually responded we don't know Shreyank sir's son has responded so that will reduce the validity of the research the validity of research will reduce okay. Intended recipient jodi answer not kare then some respondents also skip some questions or gave random answers or gave random answer भी दे परिए ता द्वारा भी validity reduce है now finally questionnaires can't be used with certain categories को category लोगों को संग में यूज कर परियो नहीं चिल्ड्रन को तुम कहबे लिखि कि दियो बोली मैक्सिमम देखो लिखि कि देले तांका पई पिक्टोरियल क्वेश्चनर यूज करियो पड़ियो ओके अदरवाइज नॉर्मल क्वेश्चनर यू कैन नॉट यूज सेमिति मेंटली रिटार्डेड जो माने ओके लो आईक्यू और जो मन लो आईक्यू हम को समान को भी यूज कर परियो नहीं ओके मेंटली इल जो माने समान को भी यूज कर परियो नहीं एनिमल्स यूज कर परियो नहीं ओके So for these people, which kind of tool we can use? Previous class में ମୁଁ କହିଥିଲି କୋଉ tool use କରି ହବ these categories? ପିଲାମାନେ revise କରୁନାହଁ observation can be used. देखो एबे टॉपिक बहुत इजी लागुथो एक्चुअली जेतो क्वेश्चन आसियो ता ऊपर आंसर करिया डिफिकल्ट हो बिकॉज़ you will face difficulty in generating points. So revise whatever is being taught in the class, please revise. देखो डेली जहाँ पढ़ा होची ता परदिन सकाळे सेटा को थरे रिवाइज करो एटलीस्ट हाफ एन आवर और 1 आवर नेकी से नोट्स को अथर रिवाइज करो. Otherwise what will happen ki because classes are continuously going on, so by the end of one paper you will forget most of the parts of the previous chapters. ପରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ରିଭାଇଜ କଲେ ସେ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡ଼ା ମନେ ପଡ଼ିଯିବ ମନା କରୁନି ବଟ୍ କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟୁଅସଲି କ୍ଲାସ୍ ଚାଲିଥିବା ସମୟରେ ରିଭାଇଜ କଲେ କ'ଣ ହବ ବହୁତ ଜଲ୍ଦି ମେମୋରାଇଜେସନ ହେଇପାରିବ. ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ କିଛି ବୁଝି ହଉନାହିଁ କିଛି ଏନି ପାର୍ଟ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନାର ରିଲେଟେଡ୍ ପ୍ଲିଜ ଲେଟ୍ ମି नो କିଛି ବୁଝି ହଉନାହିଁ କିଛି ପାର୍ଟ नो ସବୁ ବୁଝି ହଉଛି. Okay, then you do one thing, you do a research and this is your homework. The question is how to build a questionnaire for social research. Okay, please write answer on this. Last ମୁଁ तार pointers भी दे देवी माने तुम आंसर लिख सारला परे I will give you the pointers कौन लिखे हुआ. So now next last topic for this is examples of questionnaires used in social research. Social research रे कौन इंडिया questionnaire use ହେଇଛି. So from this can you tell me will positivists like questionnaire as a tool? Positivists और anti positivists दुई जन भितर किए प्रेफर करिवे questionnaires?
Sir, positivist.
Very good. Why?
कहना से ऑब्जेक्टिव डाटा ऊपर में मोस्टली बहुत माने प्रायोरिटी दोतले.
Very good, excellent. So from this देखो इस स्केलिंग कथाटा मु काहे कि डिस्कस कली देखो पॉजिटिविस्ट मानकर सब बळे माने तांकर गोल कोन से माने सब बळे कोन करे क्वालिटेटिव डेटा को भी केमितिया क्वांटिफाई कर पारी राइट. दे वांट टू स्टडी सोसाइटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ सोशल फैक्ट्स को ऑब्जेक्टिवली स्टडी करी. तो एटा दिस इज गिविंग एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू कन्वर्ट qualitative data into something quantitatively which can be quantitatively studied. So therefore they will positivists will always favor the use of these kind of tools. Okay, use of tools PODCs like questionnaires. Why? Because it will generate data which can be studied objectively. So just as physical sciences use scientific tools, similarly social sciences will try to use this kind of statistical or sociometric tools through which we can study the phenomenon objectively or as objectively as possible. Positivists mane eta ko prefer karan. Okay. On the other hand, let's also tell you one more thing. Interpretivists mane kaha ko prefer kariye? Can you guess? The interpretivists mane भी also prefer questionnaires, but they prefer open or open-ended questionnaires. Open-ended questionnaire हेले कौन होगा तांको interpret सते subjectivity आसियो समान ताको interpret करियो. Whereas positivist माने कौन prefer करिए? Positivist will prefer even within the questionnaire they will always prefer close-ended questionnaire. Because close-ended questionnaire will give you objective data. How can our different Google forms we are talking about this, different websites, institutes, they can use it to generate data. For example, let's say the United Nations, United Nations also conducts questionnaires, sends out questionnaires, and from that they understand what is the social reality. What else? Alice Sullivan. Alice Sullivan's study of cultural capital. This was also used questionnaires through which she gathered data on middle and working class people, working class families. So basically ହେଇଥିଲା କ'ଣ cultural capital କ'ଣ ଦେଖ cultural capital refers to different skills, knowledge and values, personal or cultural values, which is from inculcated by the middle class families, which give their kids an advantage in education. So basically Sullivan कौन find out कले से कहले कि जतरा हमें देखियो कि middle class children how working class children तो को माने स्कूल रे बेटर परफॉर्म करूछंती obviously middle class children माने करिवे काहे की करूछंती से क्वेश्चनर सेंड आउट करी कि she gathered the data and she saw that the middle class children तांको फैमिली रो जो वैल्यूज उडा अछि that is more oriented towards education, job, some and not any job but mostly salaried and stable jobs, and tankar entire focus is on this, therefore their children are likely to do much better. Working class children मानकर family को से same questionnaire रे पठाला तांकर आंसर रु एनालिसिस करिकी एलिस सलिवान जानि पारले कि एमानकर सिमिलर वैल्यूज नाही और जदि भी वैल्यूज अछि that is not as intense as middle class values. For example, working class family रो value मान पूरा कोन जानछो basically more related to earning because समान को day to day life रे बहुत परिश्रम करिकी they have to survive, survival values are more. Okay, so any kind of job they can prefer कि as long as it is sending money it is there. Education उपरे एते बेसी preference नहीं. Okay, so for these reasons obviously their children will not perform as well as middle class children. So Alice Sullivan generated this hypothesis or this idea through by sending the questionnaire to different families. Cultural capital होची A. Capital एथरे गोटे इन्वेस्टमेंट रे जे capital यूज है ना से बड़ा capital टा से टर्म रे यूज है cultural capital कि culture थ्रो रे जो capital टा अछि माने each family रे जो family values अछि cultural capital बुझी होची. If you have any doubt please ask, otherwise we will move on to the next topic, that is interview schedule. Any doubts in this topic so far? Questionnaire upare kichhi doubt ache apun? No? बुझी होची पिला ने सब किछि? Please give me some feedback. Okay, what happened today? You are very low on energy it seems. कौन ହେଇଛି କଣ କିଛି exam ଅଛି ଆଗକୁ? Sonalika Giri, please reply. Lovelykanth,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Sonalika,
sir.
what happened today? Your energy is very down.
Sir, I have fever.
Sir, ଆମ ଘର ସାଇଡ୍ ରେ ମ୍ୟାରେଜ ହଉଛି ତ ମତେ କ୍ଲାସ୍ ବହୁତ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ହଉଛି ଶୁଣିବା ପାଇଁ।
Okay, okay. Still ଯଦି କିଛି ବୁଝି ହଉ ନାହିଁ, ଯଦି ନ ଶୁଣି ପାରିବ, please ask me, I will explain it. I'll
ସାର୍ ମୁଁ
clarify.
ରେକର୍ଡିଂ ଭିଡିଓ ଆଉ ଥରେ ଦେଖିବି ସାର୍, ମାନେ ମତେ ଭଲସେ ଶୁଣା ଯାଉନି କ୍ଲିୟରଲି।
Okay. ଅନ୍ୟମାନଙ୍କୁ ମୋ ଭଏସ କ୍ଲିୟରଲି ଶୁଣା ହଉଛି? or ମୋର ଭଏସ ରେ କିଛି ଇଶ୍ୟୁ ଅଛି? ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ ଟିକେ ଆନ୍ସର Okay.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍।
It's not my problem. ठीक है, you can watch it later on also. So interview or interview schedule. By the way, interview schedule is just a subset of interview. We'll discuss what is the difference. For the time being, we are just focusing on interview. Interview mane kona? We all know what is interview. Many of you must have faced yourself also. But exam re to question asio suddenly mind ko asibo nahi. Hala. तो सेतबेले माइंड को कौन सब आंसर आसियो देखियो इंटरव्यू इज व्हेन one person asks question to the other person and he or she answers ए भले मु देखि छि पिलांकर कॉपी जेतले पिला माने भलो से नोट बोर्ड किछि पढि न थांती तो सीधा भाबंती बहुत इजी टॉपिक हम मनरु लिखि देबु ए भले सब आंसर लिखो so please write some answers or definitions given by the sociological or social researchers. Social researcher माने आपको केमिता डिफाइन करछन्ती इंटरव्यू इज अ डायलॉग बिटवीन टू और मोर पर्सन्स. You can add this माने तुम तुम्हार निजर डेफिनेशन भी लिखि परियो कि इंटरव्यू इज अ डायलॉग बिटवीन मल्टीपल पर्सन्स to generate some relevant data. Okay. This is एटा मो माइंड पे बे आसला ए बळे भी डेफिनेशन करते but it should seem like the correct definition. Okay. Correct definition माने कोन टिके टेक्निकल जोटा थिबो बहुत लेमैन टर्म ना हिन. Next is what? Interview is a dialogue with a purpose. Dialogue with a purpose. You can say this also. So can you tell me कि interview generates which kind of data? Primary or secondary? Which data?
Primary.
Sir, primary.
Very good. It generates primary data. So that's good. We always value any research tool which generates primary data. Okay. Now, एथिरे you have to note something. कि interview और interview schedule. Schedule काहे की what use कराओ? See, schedule word means what? In social research, it means a device, usually a written document or a list of questions to collect data from the interviewee. एबे तुमने कहो कि list of questions. Questionnaire भी तो list of question. So what is the difference between questionnaire and a interview schedule? Can you tell me what is the difference? What is the major difference? Anyone? कौन लागू से तुम? See, both have lists of questions. But the difference is in administration. This is the most important part. Administration माने, or we can also say it mode. एटा कौन क्वेश्चन एटा होची सेल्फ एडमिनिस्ट्रेड माने से लोगों को बेसिकली जो रेस्पोंडेंट को हमें आंसर करिया को चाहू तांको हमें मेल कर दो मेल और ईमेल कर दो एंड समाने निजे तार आंसर देबे. इंटरव्यू शेड्यूल कौन गोटे लिस्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चन धरिकी गोटे रिसर्चर और तार जे हेल्पर आसीओ से सेतरु पढी पढी तुमको क्वेश्चन पचारियो. ओके, सो दिस इज एडमिनिस्ट्रेड बाय द researcher or their field worker जहाँ को ସେମାନେ रिक्रूट करी पठेइबे. So they will ask you question and तुमे जहाँ verbally respond करियो ताको समाने एठी note down करिवे कि okay these are the answers given by this person. So this is not self administered, this is administered by the researcher or the field worker. This is the main difference. Would you now from this can you tell me what is always do we always use schedule in interviews? हमें सब बेले इंटरव्यू रे शेड्यूल यूज करू OPSC UPSC interview, is it scheduled interview? माने interview schedule use करा पे और interview without any schedule? What do you think?
That without any schedule.
Very good. They have your DAF, detailed application form, in front of them. So that can also work as a guide, or that will guide them to ask you questions on those topics. But it cannot be called as an interview schedule. It is just an interview. So that means ki interview is a broader thing. Interview schedule is a smaller thing. This is interview. There are many types of interviews which do not use schedules. Okay. So there are some types of interviews that use schedule while others don't. When do we not use schedule? Specifically, when we want the interview, when the researcher wants the interview to be free flowing, open and free flowing. That is when we don't use it. However, but you can also write this, however, most social research, most social sciences, for example, sociology, anthropology, psychology, okay, they use schedule to guide the interview along intended lines. Because without schedules, your interview might go off the rails. And also this will also helps organize the responses. Response को हमको organize करिया को data को हमको organize करिया को easier हो. That is the reason. Schedules. Now from this, now next your homework is compare and contrast two tools or techniques of data collection. Which are the tools? Compare and contrast. Compare means which are the similarities, contrast mean what are the differences. Okay, one is questionnaires, other is interview schedule. So please write the answer and submit, then I'll check and evaluate your copies. Now major types of interviews. केते type अछि? Pauline Young, she is a researcher, gave 5 types. 5 major types of interviews are there in social research. यहाँ छाड़ा भी और भी बहुत सारा अच्छी, structured, unstructured, closed, open. But Pauline Young gave 5 types, so you can write major types. First is structured interviews. There was structured questionnaires in there. Say structured interviews is also there. That is, it is well organized. So it is also called as controlled or direct or guided interviews. Controlled, direct or guided. So it has found it a fixed set of questions is there. Which is strictly followed by the researcher or interviewer. Strictly followed माने कौन की the interviewer will not change either the words or language, the questions, or even the sequence of questions. माने जहाँ आगुरी फिक्स करिकी शेड्यूल रखी जाए सी सेम वे रे ही चले. So that is known as structured interview. So structured interview, from this you can guess, is it more likely to be open-ended question or close-ended question? Guess.
Sir, close-ended.
Very good. So close-ended questions are used. Close-ended questions will be used. Have you ever filled up such kind of interview, structured interview क्या face करचा? पूरा A to Z पूरा fixed जोड़ा था. ये वाला usually I don't think anyone would have faced it because it is very unusual. कि exactly ये question अच्छी हमें सेया पचारी. Because जहाँ भी तुम्हें आंसर दबो, ये पर समस्त एका वाले आंसर देने माने नहीं. तो जहाँ जने आंसर दबो, ताकि further analysis करे भी तो दरकार ना. Accordingly, if the interviewer is changing his or her questions, then it will be known as unstructured interview. So the next kind of type of interview is unstructured interviews. Through exactly everything is not fixed. Okay? So it is also known as uncontrolled or non-direct or unguided interviews. Okay. So basically no predetermined set of questions. Interviewer कौन करियो? Interviewer will only gives a broad guideline. Broad guideline भितर ताको जहाँ भी क्वेश्चन पचारियार अछि. Okay, and a definite subject. So subject matter तो जाले definite हो, but questions are not fixed. So this gives the interviewer more flexibility. So flexibility to both interviewer and the interviewee. Okay, दो जन जाकों को flexibility मिलियो. So this is a more free or open discussion kind of a thing. Okay, so provides flexibility. So it gives rich data. Rich data माने कौन? For example, जतले हमें so हाँ इधर भी असले तो इटा कौन? इटा usually it consists of what kind of questions then? Open questions, open-ended questions. Open-ended question नहीं तो rich data आसियो ना. So free-flowing questions. You don't give options to the other person. You just say कि you tell us what you think or what you feel. So एमितिया question नहीं कि do you like your parents? Yes, no, can't say. सेटा है जो close-ended question. They will ask how do you feel about your parents. So now your question will generate more richer data. And this also affords the interviewer can to clarify questions and ask supplementary questions. Okay. एथरे probing भी ही पारी. Probing and grilling भी ही पारी. Probing and grilling माने कौन? Probing माने further question which will through which they will tell you कि you clarify your stand. This is when the the interviewer himself explains कि what is the meaning of this question. Probing question is कि जतल तुम्हारा ठीक से respondent ठीक से answer दबा नहीं, सेतल interviewer ताको further question पचारे कि what do you mean by this. Grilling हला जतल किसी dishonest answer दिया हबो, सेतबले the interviewer will understand कि question तारो ठीक honest answer मिली नहीं, so counter question करा. Probing and grilling are not the same. Counter question माने to catch the lie or dishonesty, they will ask you further questions. Okay. So now there are three other kind of interviews are also there. Focused interviews. We are discussing till now the 5 major kind of interviews given by Pauline Young. So focused interview माने कौन? To bring focus of the respondent on a given topic. Interviewer asks his or her opinion or experience on a definite subject matter to bring the focus of the respondent. Means we'll focus on the on a some definite subject matter and we'll ask the respondent to give detailed answer. So yaro main use kono mainly used to generate hypothesis. So generate hypothesis means this is used to break new ground. जहाँ ऊपर आमे existing data बेसिक किसी नहीं सेथिरे आमे कौन use करू focused interview use करू so that from that we will generate hypothesis and then further research can continue. How किए जाने researcher आसी ताकू pick up करेगी ताकू secondary data हावरे treat करेगी. They can conduct experiment even, they can conduct field work and they can say कि whether this hypothesis is true or false. These are the uses of focused interviews. Then there are depth interviews. See, depth interviews is also very similar to focused interviews, but depth interview mane kono? When the interviewer wants to collect all possible information or data on a single topic. So here there might be even multiple person may be involved. Focused interview re kono gote loko ko respondent ko pachara hochi and we want his or her focus to be on a single topic so that we can understand that topic initially. Depth interviews re kono जेकोनसे गोटे सिंगल टॉपिक ऊपर वी कैन इवन आस्क मल्टीपल पर्सन्स बट जहाँ को भी आमे क्वेश्चन पचारिबी ताकू इन डेप्थ रे पचारिबी एंड से लोकोठू आमे इन डेप्थ रे आंसर आनियो को चाहू तो सिंगल टॉपिक ऊपर इन डेप्थ डेटा ऑल पॉसिबल डेटा that is detailed data will be generated so this will also work as primary data here also पूर्वटा रे भी primary data हबो but detailed data माने in depth data आमे कलेक्ट करू. So here the interviewer comes prepared. Prepared माने background विषय सब पढ़ी की सबको आसिया को पड़े. Otherwise the interviewer himself cannot ask in-depth questions. तो यार use कौन हुए? Used in psychiatry रे बेसी use. Psychiatry रे specifically case studies रे बहुत use. Let's say you want to understand कि what are the different reasons for schizophrenia. तो schizophrenic patient को हमें कौन करेगी और तार रिलेटिव्स को schizophrenic patient को चलो जे तो एडवांस स्टेज रे थी से तो कोहेरेंट आंसर और सेंसिबल आंसर दे ही परिबनी बट इनिशियल स्टेज रे आल्सो यू कैन आस्क सम डिटेल क्वेश्चंस यू कैन आस्क क्वेश्चंस टू हिज और हर फैमिली मेंबर्स आल्सो फैमिली मेंबर को इन डेप्थ इंटरव्यू करके यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि ओके दीस आर द एंटीसीडेंट्स और दीस आर द फैक्टर्स व्हिच हैपेंड बिफोर द पर्सन्स मेंटल इलनेस सो डेप्थ इंटरव्यूज इज देयर केवल साइकियाट्री नो तापर भाबो कि सपोज हमें क्रिमिनल साइकोलॉजी रे भी यूज है यू वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड कि गोटे लोक काहे की क्रिमिनल होछ तो हमें कोन करी तार भी डेप्थ रे इंटरव्यू तार करिवो कि व्हाट ही डिड व्हाई ही डिड दैट व्हाई ही जॉइंड दिस ग्रुप डेप्थ इंटरव्यूज देन फाइनल काइंड ऑफ इंटरव्यूज रिपीटेड इंटरव्यूज होची कोन ना इंटरव्यूअर conducts interview of same respondents at multiple points of time. Okay. बर्तमान multiple points of time रे तुम भाबे कि एटा को हमें काहे करी because sometimes you need to understand or you need to study an evolving or changing process. For example, some kind of social phenomenon. Let's say, for example, you want to understand ki how Hindutva is growing in India and how it is influencing Indian society. So, तुम्हें कौन करियो 2014 रे और 13 रे जो गोटे सेम ग्रुप ऑफ लोगों को पचारथियो क्वेश्चन जोटा कि व्हाट इज योर व्यू अबाउट हिंदुत्व डू यू थिंक इट इज अफेक्टिंग पीपल हाउ इट इज ग्रोइंग ऑल दिस क्वेश्चंस 2017 ने पुन सेम ग्रुप ऑफ लोगों को पचारियो 2022 रे 2024 रे आउथरे पचारियो so from the same people you will see how their thinking is also changing over time hey pare for example some kind of ideology might have strengthened over time or some kind of ideology might have weakened over time so repeated interview through रे हमें कोन गोटे इवॉल्विंग और चेंजिंग प्रोसेस को बेटर बुझ पारी कि कोन होछ सेमितिया ए लॉन्ग टर्म प्रोसेस और इवेंट ताको भी आमे बुझी परिबु कि कोन होची काहे चेंज होची एनी क्रोनोलॉजी फॉर एग्जांपल ग्रोथ पर्सनल ग्रोथ और डेवलपमेंट याको भी आमे बुझी परिबु विथ टाइम हाउ वी आर चेंजिंग हाउ people's thought is also change होची बट यार डिसएडवांटेज कौन टाइम कॉस्ट एंड लेबर इंटेंसिव इंटेंसिव माने टकली टकली माने जोटा खराब टकली मींस इंटेंसिव माने दिस इज मोर टाइम कॉस्ट एंड लेबर इफेक्टिव माने व्हिच इज लेस टाइम कॉस्ट एंड लेबर इंटेंसिव माने जोतरे टाइम कॉस्ट और लेबर बेसी यूज हो ऑब्वियसली रिपीटेड इंटरव्यू तुम करियो लोक कर थरे गोटा वर्ष थरे करथियो से सेम लोक को खोजी खोजी पुनी ताको 2 वर्ष पर करियो तो ऑब्वियसली इट विल टेक अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम एंड तुम्हारा फाइनल रिसर्च रिजल्ट आसिया को भी बहुत टाइम लागे so far so good now you have a homework इतरे रिसर्च करके गूगल करके कि जहाँ भी करके हो ट्राई टू राइट डाउन दिस क्वेश्चन कि व्हाट आर द stages or phases of interview you can also write ki how should and your alternative question होगा how should you build or conduct an interview in social research question ओडा लास्ट भी मु आउथरे ग्रुप रे लिखि देबी please try to answer this ये क्वेश्चन भी गोटे आसी पारे बाय द वे हम सब बेले पचरा होनी प्राय तो पचरा हो एडवांटेज डिसएडवांटेज क्रिटिकली इवैल्यूएट ए सब जिंस पचरा हो बट maybe just to be prepared we should have enough content on all of this बुझी होची पर्यंत जहाँ कहूची
Yes, sir. Vijay.
I will see advantages of interview schedule advantage कौन हो first advantage generates valuable primary data so which can further be used in other research further used in research blah blah is in select करियो primary data ना सब बड़ा value okay what else face to face interaction हबो so face to face interaction हले कौन हबो scope of the interviewer to clarify some questions ask probing question माने enough data gather करिया को जोटा ठीक से जने आंसर देई नथि ओके तापरे ग्रिलिंग भी करियो ग्रिलिंग माने जोथरे डिसऑनेस्ट आंसर ऊपर ग्रिलिंग करियो तो या द्वारा कौन होबो बेसिकली यू विल गेट accurate data so data quality is improved similarly okay यार हमें लिखि छु कि लो रेस्पॉन्स रेट लिखि छु कि लिमिटेशंस रे लो रेस्पॉन्स रेट लिखा है यस तो तार एंते लो रेस्पॉन्स रेट हबो यार लो हबो और हाई हबो विल बी हाई रेस्पॉन्स रेट बिकॉज़ देखो क्वेश्चनर को घर को पठे देले इट इज इजी टू अवॉइड but some person is standing in front of you and asking questions so it's difficult to avoid तुम्हें जहां ले भी तो आंसर दबो ना so it has high response rate compared to other tools of research like questionnaire सेमितिया फेस टू फेस हेले कोन हो फिजिकल प्रेजेंस ऑफ इंटरव्यूअर हेले means that the interviewee jaharo interview niya hochi so interviewee can avail additional cues माने कोन verbal cues non verbal cues here means hints okay? extra hint ताको मिलियो verbal cues non verbal cues for example जनकर body interviewer body language from that the person will understand ki what the question is about so the person gets further cues that increases the response rate ଯେମିତି ଜେस्ଚର फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन ये सब जिंस नॉन वर्बल क्यू भाव में एक्ट कर then what else interviews can generate or find data which other tools that is TODCs can't generate kahin ki for example on some topics on which people don't want to give written responses written answers ଏବେ यार बढ़िया एग्जांपल है फैमिली प्लानिंग गोटे किसी भी सेंसिटिव टॉपिक तो एगुड़ा सेंसिटिव और कंट्रोवर्शियल टॉपिक है तो से कौन आम लोक कहते रिटर्न आंसर दियो कहीं भी रिटर्न आंसर देवा पसंद करेंगे बट फेस टू फेस कथा कौन हम पर्सन नोस कि ओके मो जहाँ रेस्पॉन्स दूसरी मोर एनोनिमिटी रोचे राइट सो आई कैन गिव गुड आंसर माने मु ऑनेस्टली आंसर दे पारे सो इट इज आल्सो एन एडवांटेज व्हाट एल्स इंटरव्यूअर कैन स्टडी फैक्टर्स लाइक non-verbal cues, facial expressions, etc. of the interviewee. तो या थ्रू रे कौन हम दे कैन इंटरप्रेट एटीट्यूड इमोशंस एंड परसेप्शंस of the respondent. Let's say for example you want to ask someone ki how do you feel about India Pakistan match or how do you feel about patriotism. So more than their verbal answer, what their non-verbal cues or non-verbal language, body language, facial expression, through that you will be better able to understand their attitude, emotions and perceptions. So you can note down that also. Okay. So for example you ask someone ki do you support India Pakistan relations कि आमे इंडिया और पाकिस्तान संगे बेटर रिलेशन एस्टाब्लिश करिया उचित कि नहीं सपोज से लोकटा टी घाबरे जाय कि कहले कि नाही आज्ञा मत तो लागुनी बट तार जो सपोज स्वेटिंग हला और हाथ गोड़ टिके हल्लिला so from that you can also note down कि okay verbally he responded कि he does not think but from his body language it seems कि as if he is undecided or he thinks कि yes maybe India Pakistan should have good relations but due to societal pressure or due to peer pressure or something because maybe he is self-aware right now he is giving these kind of answers so now this kind of observation will improve the quality of your data and otherwise गोटे written response रे semane गोटे appropriate answer तुमको बस दे देबे politically correct answer दे देबे but when you are interviewing someone you can write down additional data which will help you to later on interpret what was the actual meaning of the answer given this is one of the main advantages अच्छा इतरे यार गोटे डिसएडवांटेज हला टेक्स अ लॉन्ग टाइम डिसएडवांटेज एथरे हम लिखि चुके ना 8 9 ने लेट मी ऐड टेक्स अ लॉन्ग टाइम काहे कि द क्वेश्चनर का तुम पठे दीचो से माने केबे फिल अप करी तुम सेंड करी तुम जान न तुम बस वेट करियो बट यार एडवांटेज कोन तार कंपैरिजन रे इट टेक्स लेस टाइम टू कंप्लीट रिसर्च less time रे हम रिसर्च कर परियो कंप्लीट कर परियो because you just go out there you ask the people you write down they will research complete then later on घरे बसी तुम एनालिसिस करियो right so collecting data within a short period of time brief time period रे हम कलेक्ट कर परियो unlike other methods like questionnaire which takes a longer period of time another advantage is wide scope of application यार माने कौन वाइड स्कोप माने बहुत सारा डिफरेंट सिचुएशन में और डिफरेंट लोगों को संगे भी हमें यूज कर परियो कैन इंटरव्यू पीपल लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल किछि जिंस जोटा को हमें डायरेक्टली ऑब्जर्व भी कर परियो ताको हमें क्वेश्चन पचारि के हमें कर परियो लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल सम काइंड ऑफ फैमिली प्रॉब्लम societal issues they are facing. Let's say कि some people are facing social boycott from a village. So हेडा surface level रे observation through रे तुम्हें जानी पड़ेगी. Observation ना अति बेसरे कौन देखा जी कि हाँ लोग माने बेसी मिसु नांती अन्य तांकर नेबर मान को संगे. But तारा causes कौन तुम बुझी परियो. But if you ask them in a face-to-face interview कि why you are not interacting with your neighbors, then the person will say कि because we are being socially boycotted. Now this is a wide scope of application in the sense that we are now able to observe, or sorry, we are able to get data which was earlier not observable. What a generic point I mean, a qualitative tool of research which can be used when quantification is not possible. गोटे जेनेरिक पॉइंट तुम जेकोसी ये चैप्टर रे को भी टूल ले यूज लिखि परियो क्वालिटेटिव टूल ऑफ रिसर्च जोटे क्वांटिफिकेशन पॉसिबल नो सेठी हमें क्वालिटेटिव टूल यूज करते दैट मींस कि इट इज अ वर्सटाइल टूल दीज आर द एडवांटेजेस आउ कुछ एडवांटेज किछ छाडी नि कंपेयर करले अन्य मेथड संगे मे बी आ गोटे गोटा पॉइंट भी बाहर एतरे किछ बुझी होची और किछ डाउट प्लीज आस्क मी एनी डाउट्स
नहीं सर क्लियर
ओके आज रो टॉपिक तो बहुत इजी राइट मस्त इजीली बुझी पारुछो देखो डिसएडवांटेज मेन डिसएडवांटेज और लिमिटेशन ऑफ इंटरव्यू कौन की हमको इंटरव्यूई माने जहाटू हमें रेस्पॉन्स नौ रेस्पोंडेंट ऊपर ही रिलाई करियो पड़ियो फॉर एग्जांपल रेस्पोंडेंट कैन पुट अप ए फ्रंट माने कौन मिछरे गोटे जिंस शो करियो और लाइस कहयो so it is difficult to interpret ये प्रॉब्लम टा देखो ये प्रॉब्लम टा क्वेश्चनर रे भी हो क्वेश्चनर रे भी द पर्सन कैन लाई समथिंग बट क्वेश्चनर रे कौन यदि क्लोज एंडेड क्वेश्चनर हबो सेथरे एटलीस्ट ऑब्जेक्टिवली विल बी एबल टू सी कि ओके दिस सी इफ ए पर्सन इज सेइंग कि व्हाट इज योर एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशंस ते तीन चारटा ऑप्शन दिया है ओके जोटा नाही से सेटा भूलले माने से गोटा हायर क्वालिफिकेशन को लिखि देछि स्टिल इफ यू डू सम काइंड ऑफ बैकग्राउंड चेक वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि ओके ये जिनसरा फॉल्स इंफॉर्मेशन आसी हम बट गोटे इंटरव्यू रे सेटा को धरिया भी टिके रिलेटिवली डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज़ किछि जने मिछरे जने कहि देला यू आस्क फर्दर क्वेश्चन से फर्दर आउ सेtere लाइव कहि so we have to ultimately rely on the interviews report so interviewee माने जो रेस्पोंडेंट जे से कोन रेस्पोंड करूची ता ऊपर हमको बहुत सारा जिंस रिलाय करे पड़ियो so एथरो माने पड़ला yes from reliance you can also write कि interview needs let us the next point कर दो needs active cooperation by the respondent active cooperation दरकार so means जार इच्छा नहीं तो ता द्वारा so it is more demanding जार इच्छा नहीं से इंटरव्यू दबो नहीं जदी so इंटरव्यूअर को बहुत दौड़िया को पड़े अनलाइक क्वेश्चनर कोन क्वेश्चनर तुम पठे देलो जार इच्छा से क्वेश्चनर से फिल अप करियो और करियोनी तो हमको बेसी किछ फरक पडुनी जे न करूछ बट तुम यदि भाबो इंटरव्यू का करिया पे जाउ छ तुमको माने एज एन इंटरव्यूअर यू विल फेस इट इज मोर डिमांडिंग ऑन यू एक्टिव कोऑपरेशन काटू नीड करिया तुमको दरकार पड़छ देन कोन आउ कोन डिसएडवांटेज needs skill and experience from the researcher or interviewer means समस्त इंटरव्यू नहीं की आंसर सॉलिसिट करि परिबे ना तुम देखिथियो मॉक इंटरव्यूज गुडा बहुत सारे यूट्यूब पे आस्थियो so see even asking question is an art right so if you cannot ask good questions you will not get good answers you will not get rich answers so even interview will depend a lot on the skill or experience of the interviewer himself on the other hand I'm the questionnaire type रो tool use करी तो हेतरे स्किल एक्सपीरियंस बहुत बेसी दरकार नहीं गोटे जी वो पढ़ाकू टाइप लोक भी सी बस गोटे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम करदे क्वेश्चन फ्रेम करदे विल जस्ट मेल इट एंड जहाँ आम रेस्पॉन्स आसला ताको आम टैबलेट कर दे. So in there you don't need that much of skill and experience, but here you need experience and skill of the researcher or interviewer to elicit appropriate responses. Then one more big problem is there. Subjectivity will always creep in. Subjectivity in interpretation of the answers given by the interview. So interpretation jete asibo setale researcher bias katha asiju. Researchers biases and values will operate. So values will reduce the validity of the research. क्वेश्चनर रे कोन होतला रिसर्चर रो बायस किछ नथिला हमें लिखि पठे देलो रिटन रेस्पॉन्स हमको मिल गला सेटा को इंटरप्रेट करियाटा एते डिफिकल्ट नहीं बट एथरे कोन वर्बल आंसर रे आसुची सेतल ताको इंटरप्रेट करी कि ताको हमें लिखिया कि व्हाट द रेस्पोंडेंट मींस इज दिस एंड दैट तो सेथरे कोन होबो निजे रिसर्चर रो किछ जहा किछ बायस थियो से सब जिंस भीतर को आसी सो बायस असले एटा कोन होबो तो सब ऑब्जेक्टिविटी रिड्यूस हे आउ कोन आउ कोइ पारे इट इज ओनली ए क्वालिटेटिव टूल देखो हमको पॉइंट जदि बनायार अछि ना एडवांटेजेस भी लिखिदबा कि क्वालिटेटिव टूल एटा गोटे जो जो जगह रे क्वांटिफिकेशन हे परिबो नै से जगह रे भी हम यूज करते सो एटा एडवांटेज डिसएडवांटेज रे से सेम पॉइंट को हम पुली के लिखिदबा इट इज जस्ट ए क्वालिटेटिव टूल क्वांटिफिकेशन करिया एरिया रो डिफिकल्ट ओके हमको पॉइंट बाहर करियार अछि क्वांटिफिकेशन इज डिफिकल्ट सो we are making the same point that it depends on your point of view how you are looking at it. Now it cannot be used with certain categories. कौन category of respondents in the children we are discussing children then animals mentally sick or ill person जो मनकर mental disease किछि थिबो mentally retarded जो माने that is low IQ मन को हमें बेसी इंटरव्यू यूज करियाटा then finally time cost and labor intensive taki that is more time cost and labor is obviously तुम बुली बुली लोगों को क्वेश्चन पचारियो फेस टू फेस इंटरव्यू करियो so it will take a lot of time आउ कुछ पॉइंट अछि डिसएडवांटेज और लिमिटेशंस scope of application factors response rate सी एते सारा पॉइंट भी लिखिया को बाय द वे तुम पथरे आंसर शीट रे स्कोप नथियो फर्स्ट 4-5 पॉइंट जहां भी इंपोर्टेंट पॉइंट माने पड़े राइट 4-5 points in each answer that is enough if they are asking question for example critically evaluate interview schedule as a tool in data collection and analysis in social research so critically analysis माने simply introduce कर दो what do we mean by interview schedule okay then advantage disadvantage finally your own opinion ki ha this can be used in these things okay ये answer करो so for that how much time or how much space will be there hardly would 10 marker question as per दो साइड रे लिखिया तो गोटे साइज गोटे पेज रो 70% गोटे साइड रो आउट साइड रो 70% तेरे हार्डली 5टा रो 6टा 5टा पॉइंट हार्डली लिख करियो so you have enough points to write advantages and disadvantages बुझी होचे अपन जहाँ पहुंचे
Yes, sir.
final part is examples of interviews used in social research सोशल रिसर्च रे कौन यूज हुए जेमि देखो डेसेनियल सेंसस हम इंडिया रे जो सेंसस यूज होउछ सेथरे कौन होउछ सेथरे डेमोग्राफिक डेटा प्लस सम सोशल डेटा इज आल्सो कलेक्टेड सोशल डेटा माने फॉर एग्जांपल तुमरो फैमिली रे के मेंबर्स अछंती वेदर यू हैव अ जॉइंट फैमिली और न्यूक्लियर फैमिली so that is also an example of demographic data as well as social data so decennial census through रे also you can sorry I need to clarify this it's acha can you tell me it is what kind of interview schedule will be this is it in other words is it a structured or unstructured or non-structured interview आंसर लिख दीजिए स्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यू शेड्यूल otherwise it is not an interview in the sense of mock interview but एटा इंटरव्यू माने कोन शेड्यूल कि जणे फील्ड वर्कर माने आसीबे जो माने सेंसस वर्कर जो माने थिबे से माने घर को घर बुली की पचारिबे समान घर हाथ रे गोटे चेकलिस्ट धरतांती कि नहीं समान से चेकलिस्ट रे से क्वेश्चंस थोड़ा सब थाए so they will ask you questions serially and as it is provided in the questionnaire so questionnaire तो नो एठी हम शेड्यूल यूज करे एटा तो शेड्यूल ले जहा जहा क्वेश्चन थिबो कि आपन घरे के अछंती केते मेंबर अछंती फैमिली प्लानिंग कोन होइछि ए सब जिंस डिटेल so the field worker is coming and
Sequence.
they are yes that sequence is also there so they are asking you that kind of question so that means it is a structured interview schedule okay so decennial census is one example semitia socio economic and caste census जहाँ को हमें कहूँ SCCC 2011 ने हितला SCCC यार बाय द वे कास्ट डेटा एथरे जो सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेटा आसला ताकू साने पब्लिश कर देले कास्ट डेटा टाकू नॉट पब्लिश्ड येट सेतरे किछि त्रुटि होती थिला बेले एटा पब्लिश करा गला नाही but they are using SCCC 2011 data for many flagship schemes of the government PMAY आधार ए सब जिंस रे SCCC data यूज होछि आधार तो नो PMAY स्वच्छ भारत मिशन है ना उज्ज्वला योजना ए सब जिंस रे SCCC data यूज होछि तो सेटा भी गोटे सेंसस भलिया गोटे सर्वे हेति सेथे कोन सेमतिया सिमिलरली फील्ड वर्कर माने आसी की समाने भी हाथ रे गोटे शेड्यूल धरथिले सेथे दे आस्क यू लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस है ना वो घर लोगों को एटलीस्ट पचारथि वेदर दे आस्क यू और नॉट दे वुड नो गां बुली साने पचारथि तां पथरे लिस्ट थिला सो पचारले जहा रेस्पॉन्स मिलला देन नोटेड डाउन सो दिस इज आल्सो एन एग्जांपल this also generates a lot of social data or not this generated a lot of social data specifically related to poverty related to caste related to class ये सब जिनस ऊपर social data was generated so this is also a good example अच्छा मते को कि पॉजिटिविस्ट हाउ लेट्स से एंटी पॉजिटिविस्ट समान को भीतर को माने बेसी यूज करथि गेस करो
anti positives
Positivist.
anti
ओके ओके
नहीं
टेल
सर
मी कि
anti हबो
एंटी पॉजिटिविस्ट वेरी गुड काहे कि
ये
पॉजिटिविस्ट माने काहे
subjective
कि यूज
data
करबेनी वेरी गुड एक्सीलेंट
सर
अंडरस्टैंडिंग सी जहारो अंडरस्टैंडिंग एती क्लियर अपन तो ही आई एम वेरी हैप्पी ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड ऑल पॉजिटिविज्म माने ऑब्जेक्टिविटी एंटी पॉजिटिविस्ट माने सब्जेक्टिविटी एतिकी तो बेसिक क्रूड जिंस माइंड रे ही गला माने अकॉर्डिंगली यू कैन इंटरप्रेट जो जिंस रे बेसी एनालिसिस इंटरप्रिटेशन रिक्वायर करतो सेगुडा को सब नॉन एंटी पॉजिटिविस्ट माने प्रेफर करबे फेमिनिस्ट पोस्ट मॉडर्निस्ट मन सब प्रेफर करिवे जोटारे जत्ते लेस इंटरप्रिटेशन दरकार होतो जोटा जत्ते बेसी ऑब्जेक्टिव डेटा जनरेट करि करतो सेटा को सबले पॉजिटिविस्ट माने प्रेफर करिवे ओके सो इंटरव्यू रे कोन हबो बेसी सब्जेक्टिविटी अछि ना जहा वर्बली आंसर दुचन से माने ताको इंटरप्रेट करियारे सब्जेक्टिविटी आसीयो सो पॉजिटिविस्ट माने एते प्रेफर करिवे ना पॉजिटिविस्ट माने यूज करंती नाही बोली माने पॉजिटिविस्ट आर आल्सो यूजिंग इट but they will not prefer this rather they will prefer tools like questionnaire okay so interview as a tool of data collection is widely used across social research or sociology or different schools of sociology but positivists don't prefer it much they still use it किए prefer करे preferred by सबुठ बेसी prefer को मान करवे interpretivists है ना इंटरप्रिटेशन जोठी आसीबो सेठी सब्जेक्टिविटी आसीबो तो इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट माने कोन इंटरव्यूअर रेस्पॉन्स को इंटरप्रेट करिया को खुशी लागी है ना so it will be preferred by interpretivists and also anti-positivists anti-positivists and interpretivists माने प्रेफर करिवे positivists माने एते बेसी प्रेफर करिवे ना अब जदि भी even when positivists will use it they will prefer which kind of schedule they will prefer structured and close-ended interviews over what over non-structured and open-ended interviews तो जदि भी तमने positivist use कले भी माने नुहे कि positivist माने केबे interview use करंती नाही as a tool of data collection and analysis it is of course indispensable but if they have an option they will try to use as objective tool as possible so for that reason they will prefer a structured and close-ended interview this is the how कौन हबो how good examples कौन Joan Smith one sociologist was there she used what use unstructured interviews to study the background of young homeless people Semitia Dobash and Dobash they also used interviews on study of domestic violence उपरे समाने interview through रे समाने data gather करती specifically from the women similarly there was a sociologist known as Anne Oakley she has done a study on the sociology of housework sociology of housework पे कौन used unstructured interviews of women before and after giving birth दबा पूर्वरु आउ दबा परे तांको same question so this is also an example of repeated interview रो example see these are the things we have discussed before also repeated interview कोठी यूज हो जोठी किछि changes को हम स्टडी करेउ चाहू so Anne Oakley used this kind of interview to understand ki how women's position in the household changes or how the burden of the housework affects them before and after their child Semitia Wright and other researchers semane भी use करथिले semi structured interview को use करथिले to study educational experience of minority group students in the Caribbean basically कौन करथिले से राइट एट ऑल से रिसर्चर माने इंटरव्यू थ्रू रे कैरिबियन आइलैंड रो जेमतिया मेजर से माने कौन अछंती माने लैटिन अमेरिकन किछि मेजर फैमिलीज अछंती आउ किछि जेमतिया इंडियंस भी किछि अछंती आउ किछि अफ्रीकन डिसेंडेंट स्टूडेंट्स भी अछंती से माने देखली कि अफ्रीकन डिसेंडेंट स्टूडेंट जो माने माइनॉरिटी रे थिले से माने दे फेस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन फ्रॉम अदर स्टूडेंट्स and this social research was based on semi-structured interviews okay? Semi-structured माने not that well organized but very flexible तो किछि से स्टूडेंट मान क्वेश्चन पचराला किछि तांको पेरेंट्स को पचराला फर्दर समान को जहां डाउट हला ताको फर्दर क्लैरिफाई समान कले सो थ्रू दिस दे वर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि they were facing these minority students are facing discrimination in their society these are examples of well known interview methods used in social research okay. So with this, this chapter is this today's topic is over. That is questionnaires and interview schedule. तो एपर्यंत जहाँ आमे कथा हेचु सेतिर यदि किछि बुझी हला नै काइंडली आस्क me questions. Any part you did not understand? Yes, any questions? बुझी हला आज ओवरऑल जहाँ हला very easy topics, questionnaires and interview schedule. Let me stop the recording.